Most women are taught subtly, silently, and from the very first time they hear about sex, that a man's erection equals desire, and that if he doesn't have one, something is wrong with him, or worse, wrong with you. But what if I told you that some of the most intimate, soul deep, emotionally electric moments between a man and a woman happen without an erection at all? You see, we live in a world obsessed with performance. How long, how hard, how often? But true connection, real sexual chemistry isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's about a kind of vulnerability that exists when both people drop the pressure to perform and instead choose to feel. When a man allows intimacy to unfold without needing to prove his masculinity through his erection, that's when he's showing you something most men are too afraid to show: his raw, unguarded humanity. And when a woman can stay present, compassionate, and confident in that moment, she becomes unforgettable, because she's not just connecting with his body, she's connecting with his soul. So today, I want to walk you through something most people never talk about: the beauty, the power, and the necessity of intimacy beyond erection. Because when you understand this, not only will your confidence in intimacy rise, you'll begin to access deeper pleasure, more safety, and a kind of closeness that performance sex could never give you. Let's dive into the 5 reasons why sex without erection isn't a failure. It's actually an essential part of real mature connection. When a man can be intimate without needing an erection, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of trust. Think about it. In most men's minds, their ability to stay hard has been tied to their worth for as long as they can remember. Society tells them that arousal equals masculinity and performance equals value. So when he allows himself to be close to you without that, what he's really doing is laying down his armor. That moment is powerful because it exposes something that very few men ever show: their vulnerability. He's saying, without words, I trust you enough to see me when I'm not in control. And that's not small. It's intimate on a level most people never reach. For you as a woman, this moment can be just as transformative. It invites you to meet him in his humanness instead of reacting with fear or judgment. Many women, through no fault of their own, have been conditioned to think that a man's erection is a reflection of their desirability. If he doesn't get hard, am I not sexy enough? But when you understand what's really happening, you stop taking it personally and start responding with presence. Instead of asking, what's wrong? You can ask, what do you need right now? Instead of pulling away, you can lean in. You can hold him, touch him, kiss him without needing anything to happen. And in that stillness, something extraordinary takes place. Both of you feel safe. Emotional safety in intimacy is not built when everything goes perfectly. It's built when things don't, and you both stay connected anyway. It's built in those moments where one of you feels exposed, unsure, or insecure, and the other responds with empathy instead of pressure. That kind of safety is what allows desire to return naturally, because when a man feels like he doesn't have to prove anything, his nervous system relaxes. He stops trying to perform and starts to feel. And that's when true arousal, emotional, physical, energetic, can actually flow. What most people don't realize is that pressure kills passion faster than anything. The moment either person starts to feel like they have to perform, the body goes into anxiety. But safety awakens passion. When a man feels emotionally safe with a woman, his desire for her deepens, not because she demanded it, but because she created a space where his heart and body could connect without judgment. And here's something even deeper: when you show up with acceptance in those moments, you teach him something about love. You teach him that intimacy isn't conditional on performance, that he doesn't have to be perfect to be wanted, that you desire him, not just his body's response. That lesson changes a man. It rewires how he experiences closeness. Suddenly, intimacy becomes less about, can I perform? And more about, can I open up to her? And when he starts opening up emotionally, mentally, physically, your connection grows in ways you might have never imagined. So the next time you're together and he's struggling, remember this: your calmness, your touch, your ability to stay grounded, that's what builds trust. That's what tells him, you don't need to be perfect for me. You just need to be real. And the beautiful irony, when a man feels that kind of emotional safety, his confidence, his desire, and yes, his erection will naturally return. Not out of pressure, but out of peace. Because when a woman can hold space for a man's vulnerability without flinching, she becomes unforgettable. She becomes the woman who didn't just turn him on. She made him feel safe enough to stay turned on. That's not weakness. That's power. That's intimacy in its purest. most human form. When you remove the idea that an erection defines sex, something incredible happens, the pressure disappears, and what's left is presence. So many people, men and women alike, have been taught that sex is a performance, a checklist, a sequence of actions that ends in a climax. We're told that if there's no erection, or if there's no penetration, then somehow the experience didn't count. But when you start to unlearn that belief, you realize how much more beautiful intimacy becomes without that performance script, without the pressure to make it happen. Both people finally have the space to actually feel. You start to notice the warmth of skin against skin, the rhythm of breath, the sound of laughter when something doesn't go perfectly. You stop chasing the idea of a perfect scene and instead create a moment that feels real. In that space, intimacy transforms from something mechanical into something emotional. The focus shifts from doing to being, from trying to prove something to yourself or to your partner to simply enjoying the closeness that's already there. For men, this shift can be profoundly freeing. Most men grow up internalizing that their worth as lovers is tied to their performance, to how hard they are, how long they last, or how well they can please a woman. That kind of pressure builds anxiety, and anxiety shuts down arousal. But when a woman approaches intimacy with openness and curiosity instead of expectation, it tells him something vital. You don't have to perform for me. You just have to be here with me. And when a man feels that, his body relaxes, his mind softens. He can breathe again. He can actually connect. That's when sex stops being an act and starts becoming an experience. For women, letting go of the performance script is equally powerful. You begin to realize that your sensuality isn't dependent on what happens next. It's something you create in the moment. You stop measuring the quality of intimacy by the end result and start valuing how connected you felt during it. The truth is, when both people stop trying to get somewhere, the connection deepens. There's no scoreboard, no pressure to make something happen. Just two humans exploring each other's energy, learning how to communicate with touch, eye contact, breath, and silence. And that's where real sensuality begins. It's not in the act itself. It's in the awareness. It's in how present you are. It's in the way you listen to the other person's body instead of rushing to prove something with your own. The irony, of course, is that when performance pressure fades, pleasure often increases. The body becomes more responsive when it's not under scrutiny. Desire flows more naturally when it's not being demanded. You start to realize that the most erotic moments aren't always the most explicit. They're the ones where you feel completely seen. That's why sex without an erection can be so transformative. It invites you both to play, to explore, to communicate. It encourages you to slow down and find joy in connection rather than performance. You start to rediscover touch as a language, not a race. And this is the kind of intimacy that lasts because performance fades, attraction evolves. But connection, real heart-centered connection, deepens over time. So when you experience a moment of intimacy that doesn't follow the script, don't see it as a disruption. See it as an invitation to connect differently, to slow down, to be more real. When you can do that, when you can be fully present with each other without needing anything to happen, that's when sex becomes something greater than pleasure. It becomes bonding. Because the truth is, great lovers aren't the ones who perform flawlessly. They're the ones who know how to stay present when things don't go as planned. They're the ones who know how to turn pressure into play, performance into presence, and lust into love. That's what it means to shift from performance to connection. And once you taste that kind of intimacy, you'll never want to go back. One of the most beautiful shifts a woman can make in intimacy is learning to read a man's energy instead of his erection. So many women, without even realizing it, use a man's physical arousal as the measuring stick for how much he desires them. It's easy to see why. From movies, media, and even our earliest romantic encounters, we're taught that if a man is hard, he wants you. And if he's not, something must be wrong. Maybe he's not attracted to you. Maybe you didn't do something right. Maybe you're not enough. But that's an illusion, a damaging one. Because arousal isn't mechanical, it's emotional, mental, and energetic. And when you start tuning into a man's energy instead of his body's reactions, you open yourself to a whole new level of intimacy. Here's the truth most people don't talk about. Desire doesn't always show up in the same way. Sometimes it's fiery and urgent. Other times it's quiet, tender, and unspoken. Sometimes it shows up in the way his eyes linger on you or in the way he exhales when you touch his neck. Sometimes it's in the stillness, not the movement. When you learn to read that energy, to feel his desire rather than just see it, You begin to understand him on a deeper level than most women ever do. You're not interpreting signals based on stereotypes. You're connecting with his emotional truth in real time. And that kind of awareness changes everything. When you respond to his energy, not his erection, you stop needing constant reassurance. You stop taking things personally when his body doesn't respond in a certain way. Instead, you stay connected to the emotional and energetic exchange between you. You notice the warmth in his voice, the way he breathes when you get close, the softness in his touch. That's real arousal. It's just expressed differently. And here's something powerful. When a woman stops equating a man's erection with his desire, she becomes magnetic. Why? Because she's confident. She's secure. She's not seeking validation. She's offering presence. And that makes a man feel seen on a level far beyond the physical. Men crave that kind of understanding more than they'll ever admit. Most of them have spent their lives being valued for their ability to outperform, not for their emotional energy. When a woman can feel his desire, even when his body isn't cooperating, she gives him a rare gift, acceptance. And in that acceptance, his desire grows, because nothing amplifies masculine energy like feminine understanding. Imagine what happens when, instead of tensing or withdrawing, you stay connected. You look him in the eyes. You smile. You touch him softly, not to get a reaction, but simply to be close. That's when he relaxes. That's when his guard drops. That's when he feels truly desired, not as a body, but as a man. And the irony, when that emotional safety clicks into place, the body often follows. Desire flows again. Arousal returns naturally, because now it's not forced, it's felt. Reading his energy means becoming attuned to more than the physical. It's emotional intelligence at its most sensual form. It's saying, I see you, I feel you, I don't need proof of your desire, I can already sense it. And that kind of woman, she doesn't chase validation. She doesn't panic when the script changes. She knows how to create connection even in silence. That's the woman who becomes unforgettable. Not because she demands reaction, but because she feels him on levels most people never reach. So the next time you're in that intimate space, slow down, breathe, feel. Look beyond what his body is doing and listen to what his energy is saying. Because when you can feel that you're no longer just having sex, you're having an energetic conversation. And that's the kind of intimacy that lingers long after the night is over. There's a quiet, almost sacred moment that happens when a man allows himself to be intimate without an erection. It's the moment he lets go of the image of who he's supposed to be and steps into the truth of who he is. For most men, that moment is terrifying. From a young age, they're taught that masculinity means control, power, and performance. Society tells them that to be man enough, they need to always be ready, always be strong, always be able to deliver. So when their body doesn't respond the way they expect, it shakes something deep inside them. It can make them question their worth. But here's what most people don't realize when a man drops that performance mask and allows himself to be seen in that raw, unfiltered state. He's not showing weakness. He's showing trust. He's saying, I feel safe enough with you to be human. And that's rare, because most men never get to experience intimacy that doesn't require them to perform. They never get to be held without expectation, touched without pressure, or loved without needing to prove their desire. When a woman creates that kind of space, she's doing something extraordinary. She's helping him redefine what it means to be masculine. True masculinity isn't about dominance or control. It's about presence, depth, and emotional honesty. And when a woman meets a man in that space, without judgment, without panic, without ego, it changes the way he experiences himself. He begins to realize that his worth isn't tied to performance. It's tied to his connection. You see, trust in intimacy isn't just about fidelity. It's about emotional safety. It's about knowing that if things don't go perfectly, the love doesn't disappear. That if the body falters, the connection doesn't break. That's what real intimacy looks like. When you can stay calm, soft, and present in those vulnerable moments, you communicate something powerful to him. You don't need to perform for me to be enough. You already are. That message lands deeper than any words could. It tells him he's safe to relax, safe to feel, safe to show his imperfections without fear of rejection. And that kind of safety is what turns attraction into devotion. Because men may fall for beauty, but they bond through trust. When he feels that you see him fully and still desire him, he doesn't just want to please you. He wants to protect the connection you share. This is how you shift a man from ego to emotion, from surface to depth. When he realizes that your attraction isn't conditional on performance, but grounded in how he makes you feel, his entire concept of intimacy transforms. He begins to associate vulnerability with safety, not shame. He starts to understand that his masculinity isn't something he has to prove. It's something he can embody. It's in his ability to connect, to feel, to surrender to the moment without losing himself. And that's the beauty of sex without erection. It's not a failure. It's an initiation, an invitation into a deeper, more authentic version of love. So when that moment happens, don't rush to fix it. Don't apologize or try to help him perform. Just be there. Touch him gently. Keep eye contact. Show him with your energy that you're still right there with him. Because when you do, you're teaching him something profound, that intimacy isn't about control, it's about trust. And once a man feels that kind of trust, he doesn't just see you as a lover, he sees you as the woman who made him feel safe enough to be himself. That's not just attraction, that's transformation. When we think of pleasure, most people imagine something physical, touch, movement, rhythm. But the truth is, the most powerful kind of pleasure isn't just physical, it's energetic. And when sex moves beyond the expectation of erection, that's when you begin to explore this deeper, more soulful level of intimacy. Sex without erection doesn't mean the absence of desire. It means the presence of freedom. It's an invitation to slow down, to explore, to connect without a goal. Suddenly, every touch, every breath, every shared heartbeat becomes the experience itself, not the build up to something else. When that pressure disappears, your senses heighten. You start noticing subtleties you might have missed before, the warmth of his skin, the way his chest rises against yours, the quiet sighs between kisses. It's not about reaching a destination, it's about losing yourself in the journey. This is where pleasure evolves from performance into presence, because the truth is the body can only feel deeply when it's relaxed. And in moments when there's no pressure to perform, both partners can finally exhale. You begin to feel each other in ways that go far beyond what traditional sex ever offers. For many men, this kind of intimacy can be eye-opening. Without the focus on erection or penetration, they're able to tune into sensation, to experience pleasure in their entire body, not just one part of it. The neck, the back, the hands, even the breath, all of it becomes an instrument of connection. And for you as a woman, this shift is just as transformative. It allows you to reclaim your sensuality as something that's not reactive, but creative. You're no longer responding to performance. You're co-creating an experience of closeness. You're exploring textures, sounds, and sensations that most lovers rush past. This kind of pleasure is energetic. It's what happens when both people stop chasing the peak and start savoring the flow. When you explore each other's bodies slowly, intuitively, you realize that pleasure doesn't have to be explosive to be profound. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's soft. Sometimes it's simply two people breathing in sync, hearts pressed together, energy moving between them. What's even more beautiful is that this kind of connection builds anticipation. Because when you explore each other without needing to get somewhere, you create space for tension, curiosity, and deep emotional arousal. It's not about what's next. It's about what's now. And ironically, this is the kind of pleasure that often leads to the most powerful physical responses. When the body feels safe and unpressured, it opens. The mind stops overthinking and the nervous system begins to respond naturally. Desire flows again effortlessly because it's not being forced, it's being felt. But beyond physical reactions, this kind of intimacy strengthens the emotional and spiritual bond between you. It creates a memory in the body, a feeling of being cherished, understood, and seen. That's the kind of connection people remember for years. So yes, sex without erection might look different, but it opens the door to something richer. It teaches you that intimacy isn't limited by what your bodies can do. It's expanded by what your hearts are willing to feel. Pleasure at its deepest level is about connection. It's about being fully present with someone, not as a performer, but as a partner. It's about letting go of the idea that pleasure is measured by intensity and realizing it's measured by depth. So if you ever find yourself in that space where things slow down, where the rhythm changes, where the goal disappears, don't rush to fix it. Surrender to it. Explore it. Let it teach you that pleasure isn't something you chase, it's something you allow. Because that's when you'll discover the truth. The most unforgettable intimacy isn't the loudest or the wildest. It's the kind that makes you feel completely deeply alive. So here's the truth most people never tell you. Sex without erection isn't a failure. It's a doorway to understanding, to softness, to connection that runs deeper than the physical. It's where two people drop the performance, drop the pressure, and finally meet as humans. When a man feels safe enough to be intimate without needing to prove anything, he's giving you a rare kind of trust. And when you meet that trust with acceptance instead of anxiety, you become unforgettable, not because of what you did, but because of how you made him feel. That's what real intimacy is. It's not the perfect rhythm or the perfect moment. It's the honesty, the safety, the presence you both create together. It's what makes love feel like home. So the next time things slow down, don't panic. Don't pull away. Let it be what it is. Lean in, breathe, feel, touch. Look at him, not to fix, but to connect, because that's where the real magic begins. If you can embrace those moments with softness, you'll build a bond that performance could never create. You'll turn physical closeness into emotional intimacy, and that's the kind that lasts. So remember, it's not about how hard things get. It's about how deeply you connect. If this message resonated with you, share it with another woman who deserves to know that true intimacy isn't about perfection. It's about presence.